All right, good afternoon. This is Omon again. Good afternoon. I want to go over another demo in the VerityBeyond series. The purpose of these demonstrations is to talk about cybersecurity, supply chain, risk management, to educate and to start a discussion with our colleagues, friends, to call out the areas where I think there's a need for process improvement in our space. So today we're going to go into the supply chain world. This is slightly different from traditional cybersecurity, but it's really connected in that we think of supply chains as physical assets that do with traditional distribution, like a retail store or warehousing operation. Many people don't think that this is a traditional space, but it's very much related to cybersecurity, and just getting cyber folks educated about supply chain will allow us as an industry to think a little bit more holistically, right? In terms of one thing I think I like about the supply chain industry, they're brick and mortar, like Walmart's, Targets, Randall's, grocery stores, HEB. These guys have been around for a long time, and in terms of being able to manage assets, manage inventory, knowing what you have, doing inventory checks and inventory lookups, I think that is a skill or a domain that we need in the cyberspace. And that's why I'm taking some time just to talk about this use case, because it's very much related to cyber, whether you talk about identity, certificates. In one context, we're dealing with physical assets. In another context, we're dealing with cyber assets. So today, I just want to kind of build out, talking about the more traditional use case. So in this flow, we're going to talk about a supplier workflow. We're going to model a supplier who's receiving a single item class of shipment. And then we're going to go through a mock case of a customer who's requesting orders for that sort of that item. And we're going to flow through how the system can be used to track when we receive it. And we're going to model when a customer is requesting that item, right? And then show the end-to-end process of how we provide accounting of the whole flow in a traditional supply chain context. Again, these concepts are in this domain, but it's applicable to many others like healthcare, cybersecurity, access management. We're just dealing with different type of data model. So let's start out with a case whereby a supplier, I set up a supplier test user, right? Call them East-West distributors. And let's assume that they received a shipment of some particular type of product class. So we set up a few workflows here, CX warehouse receiving. So in this particular context, I set up a product view. Imagine that this is a company that deals with generators, and we want to model a shipment that was received from this distributor, right? And we're going to receive the items into our system. So we go to the warehouse receiving workflow, very straightforward, and then you go through the process. So imagine they have a truck or a delivery van. They open it up. We enter the SKU numbers. Usually it'll be a UPC or barcode, so we'll just enter those codes in. You enter the tracking number if any was supplied. Let's say FedEx shipped it. We'll just say a FedEx number. And then the next step here says that we add that item to the target site, right? So with VerityBeyond, you can just quickly move into the site view, and then let's say we received 10 of a particular type of generator class. So let's say we received 15 1,000 watt generators. So in the system, basically all you do is you go into add inventory, and then you essentially specify the quantity. So let's say we received 15, and then you specify the specific site. So I set up some test sites, SafeMart, just a sample test site, and then let's assume that they have a Reston location, a Houston location, and a Boston location. Let's just put it in the Reston location. So we're going to add 15 to that site, right? Okay, and then if you go, and then let's say we received a second shipment, right, of a different class of product. So let's say we received 25 of the 5,000 watt generators. So I'll go in here. So we have 5,000, and I'll go to add inventory, and I'll say let's say we received 50 of the 5,000 watt in a different site. Let's say we put it in the Boston site, right? So we've just modeled entering it, different types of products to different sites. So the system should receive all those items, and if you look at it, it will show you we receive in our total inventory. We have 50 of these, we've got 15 of these, and we've got, and that's basically the breakdown. So with the system, if you go into the specific site that's in question that we're reviewing, if you click on the site, it'll show you what you have on there, right? This shows you that this is the cash value, and then this is the account value, right? And then you can also get a tabular view of what's in that specific site. Okay, so that is the basic receiving workflow. Think of this in the receiving dock, receiving all these shipments, and basically the operators are bringing all this data online, updating the inventory. Many times they already have like an Excel sheet or a CSV, and they can just use automation to update things as they receive it accordingly. All right, so the next step, add SKU. I went through all these automatically, but this is basically what the system provides you, right? So I'll just go through each of these steps, and I'll just quickly pass all, right? And that's how we wrapped up the supplier flow, right? And that's a workflow that we've set up for that use case. And with VerityBeyond, for different customers, you can actually go in and adjust the steps in your SOP to fit your specific organizational business requirements. Every organization is different. Every organization does things differently. So you can create as many workflows as you want and enter the key steps that you want your organization to follow to meet the service delivery criteria, safety criteria, validation. You may want to add in fraud prevention in there, and some kind of double validation, especially if it's a high worth item. Many times, many organizations will have maybe a primary person that will receive the items, and they'll have a secondary that will approve, right? That way you can have some integrity in terms of the assets that you're bringing into your supply chain and the assets that are going out. All right, so that's the receiving workflow. And then the traditional case is where we understand it for the most part is when a customer comes in and a customer wants to request something in that workflow. They want to make a purchase. It could be online through your online store, or it could come from Salesforce or ServiceNow or your web application, right? And the idea is that the customer has made a request, and now your sales agents or your customer processing agents, employees, will receive that, and then they will just go through the service order, right? And that's what we set up for that use case. So they select the customer. In this case, I just entered a test customer, and they go through the workflow. So this person wants to order some product class, and then so we just go through the process. You identify the customer, you verify the authenticity of the request. Usually they will have a list of items that they want to purchase, right? So let's say they want to order, 5 of the 1,000 watt generators. You identify those items, you generate the request. So to generate the request, basically you essentially just go in here and click on order checkout, and then you go into the product that is of interest. So here we'll just select the item, and then we want 5 of those for this customer, right? So this specifies the customer. The SOP is like the order number that's used to track the whole request end to end, and then you just basically add it into your list, and that's it. It's really easy. From here, you can print out a sort of short invoice. Now, this tool is not really an accounting solution. There's much better accounting and financial applications out there. Oracle has a solution. SAP, QuickBooks if you're a small business. There's Square, PayPal. There's many other products that specialize in payments. That's not our space. We play more on the workflow end to end, right? But we'll give you the data so that you can at least capture the request. So in this case, this person wants to make this order. That's the quantity, that's the price, and that's the total, right? With tax. This is Texas tax, right, by the way. But at least you can export this to a tool like QuickBooks or whatever accounting package that you use. And then you can keep track of the whole workflow in your system. And that's, I think, the key value. While you're in this space, sometimes a customer makes a request, but you're not sure if you have that item in stock, right? So you could leave it at this stage, and then you can go in, and then you can say this customer wants this generator type, and they can go straight into the inventory view, and they can search for what they want. So it's 1,000 watt. So here it says that we have 15 globally, right? So we can certainly meet that order. But let's say a person came in and then they wanted to order, 500, right? Then obviously from here you can tell we can't meet that order, and then can kick up another workflow to source that order from the vendor, right? But the idea is that you can manage your whole business using what we call BPM workflows, right? From managing the customer request to receiving from the supplier to all the way from purchasing from your external vendors, receiving, accounting, and they can manage the stages of all your workflows in the system. So when we talk about BPM in the supply chain context, that is what we mean. It's really just breaking up the complexity of your whole operation into workflows, and then your team just uses a simple tool to manage it end to end, right? You can come in the morning, look at all the open SOPs, manage your project. If there's any delays, any bottlenecks, any issues, you can track the issues, resolve them, and just continue on with your business. So I like to keep these demos short. Thank you so much for the excellent feedback. I'm very appreciative. I'm very thankful to every one of you for the kind support. So this is supply chain in a traditional context. In one of our next videos, we'll talk about how this concept also applies to like other more specific industries like IT, especially when we're talking about cloud, asset lifecycle management. The same concepts that we're dealing with in this context also apply to IT. You can track all your virtual machines, servers, certificates, assets using the same general concepts, and they can certify them for quality, security, whatever it is that's important to your business using workflows. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your attention. Please feel free to contact me or ask questions. I want to learn more and see how we can work together to enhance this domain and connect the dots, because I think the information is out there, but bringing it all together in a way that I think is in a converged way, I think is one thing that this healthy discussion and doing these demos, it really helps. So thank you so much for your time today, and you have a wonderful evening. Talk to you soon.